So step one for the city in a circle drawing is to draw a circle in your sketchbook. So I'm going to use my tape, and I'm going to place my tape in the middle, and then I'm going to carefully, with pencil, kind of go around the outside. And I'm going to do a couple different versions, so I will demonstrate a couple different ways, but you want to focus on just one. But if you make a mistake, just know this is art class. You can always try a different idea, try to go a different direction. That is totally up to you. Start over or erase. It's totally fine. Don't get too caught up in mistakes. Everybody can see everything I'm working on, right? Just want to double check. Oh yeah, thank you very much. So then after you have the circle, you want to now start to think about what's the arrangement of the rectangles. Do you want to do rows, or do you want to do buildings pointing into the middle, or do you want buildings around the outside? So I'm going to do two different versions. I'll do kind of the more traditional rows, and then I'll do the buildings popping out from around I'll do buildings popping in. So we talked at the beginning that most cities are built up of kind of just rectangles and triangles. So here are some examples of the city from New York. So I want to now think about recreating some of those rectangles inside of my paper. Now I'm not a ruler kind of guy, so I just improvise. If you are a ruler type person, you can. So I've got one layer, but if you look at the city on the left here, there's some buildings behind buildings, there's some other buildings, there's like buildings in front of, there's even kind of like some low buildings along the edge for the river line here. I may even want to put like a wavy line for the water down below. And I'm going to think about now maybe like one of these iconic buildings, like the Empire State Building here. So I'll kind of make a big rectangle popping out from behind, and then it has like, I think it has these like 3 or 4 steps to it that then lead up to a point. So that's just from rectangles. If I want to kind of maybe balance it out, put some other buildings here. So this is kind of the more traditional layered style. The other style would be to have kind of a center point, and then you divide lightly into pieces of a pie, and then you fit the buildings kind of into these individual pie wedges. So I'm kind of going to spin my paper as I go around. The shapes are roughly the same. They're all rectangles. And then the other sort of drawing tip that I can offer when you're doing this is to start with lightly, like I'm not pressing very hard with my pencil. I'm kind of just lightly adding rectangles. I didn't do any triangles. Need to really get some triangles into this. And I think I have an eraser. Yeah, I've got an eraser. So now I'll just erase these kind of extra pie wedges. And I can start to add texture into this. And now I can either look at the texture from these, or you all have examples. Everybody has this in the classroom assignment. So there are some examples of windows here, right? So they did kind of like some grid style windows and some curved windows, maybe like a circular window. It's not like about making each window perfect. It's really just about using line and shape. So maybe it's just vertical lines for a couple of buildings. Maybe if you look at the Empire State Building example, here it is, like basically it's just a checkerboard in some of these. So I'll just kind of do some vertical lines, kind of checker style. Maybe I do kind of like some dashed lines. Let me make this bigger and zoom in a little bit. So now I'm kind of, I apologize for the fuzziness. I'm using an older camera. Doesn't really do a good job of zooming close up. But I'm just going in and adding little flecks of texture to show buildings. I may, for these close-up ones, I might even do, you know, some rectangles. This is also a time to think about maybe showing some signs of life, right? So some trees. In the artists that we looked at, they used circles for trees, right? So you could easily do kind of like a couple of, you know, poofy, to quote Bob Ross, some happy little trees down here. Just kind of making some swirlies. But the key is that you're just using line and shape to make your city. So when you're finished, we'll break now and work for a good solid 10 minutes, and then I'll go into how to upload your finished drawing onto Google Classroom. All right. Does anybody have any questions before we I do have a tip for drawing windows. It's kind of like really hard to see with this camera. Things off for a second. Is that any better? So one tip for drawing windows would be to just do like some dashes in a row and kind of make them evenly spaced. And then to just turn them into rectangles, you just kind of drop some vertical lines in between the dashes, and it automatically makes a rectangle. So that's another tip for details. So. All right, we are going to share out in like a minute. So find a place that's a good place to pause.